We've learned a lot from the conflicts we've been in since 2001. And I think probably the thing we've learned more than anything else is that future war lies firmly in the realm of uncertainty.
We operate in an environment of increasing complexity, increasing unpredictability, and increasing instability.
Determined, brutal, adaptive enemies taking evasive measures like dispersion, concealment, intermingling with civilian populations.
We want versatile organizations to be able to adapt to any place that an enemy might take us along that spectrum.
So this concept now begins to allow us to consider what we have to expect of our leaders in the future.
The difference between the operating concept and the capstone concept is fairly simple. The capstone concept helps describe the why of operations. The operating concept describes more of the how.
The Army operating concept makes a grounded projection into the near future, going out to 2016 to 2025 to take a look at what we have learned in the conflicts we're in, but really where we see trends heading, and then try to determine what are the required capabilities our Army needs.
The conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan are, at their most basic, challenges of establishing wide area security.
We're dealing and operating over much wider areas than a hilltop or a bridge or a key part of a town.
The prize now in this era of persistent conflict is security of the population.
What we see is the need for forces that can conduct effective area security over wide areas to help consolidate gains. If we have, for example, been able to establish a new order in an area of operations along with partners, we have to be able to secure that new order, because determined enemies will come after the civilian population, will come after governance, will come after indigenous security forces.
The Taliban or the insurgents, Al-Qaeda, they know the far out spots where we need to get to. They know how hard it is to get support out there.
Wide area security is a very important concept.
Wide area security is more than just technology. Your most proficient sensor, shooter, and decision maker is the soldier, is the human.
Wide area security is intended to include all the agencies of government, potentially non-governmental organizations, international organizations, anyone who can bring some capability to the accomplishment of the mission.
It's really important to understand really the micro-history of areas that you're in, the ethnic, tribal, sectarian dynamics of the areas you're operating in, to understand the enemy's relationship to our forces to train and the civilian population, and then also to understand the civilian population's perception of us.
I think at the end of the day, the human element, the commanders who we need to be able to train to be adaptive, to be agile, to be creative, to be innovative, is really the key insight that we're trying to get across.
We have to be able to perform both wide area security and combined arms maneuver. And our training regimen right now is very firmly fixed, as it should be, against a wide area security responsibility, because that's what we're doing in Iraq and Afghanistan. However, there are scenarios clear to everyone that could involve combined arms maneuver, and we've got to rekindle those skills to accomplish that responsibility.
Combined arms is the rock, scissors, paper of combat. Now, in the Army operating concept, we're talking about the expansion of combined arms.
The difference in this concept that we're recognizing is that it takes a whole-of-government approach. It takes a joint approach. It takes multinational partners.
You're going to employ all arms in the fight, but you're also going to employ other activities like building indigenous security forces, establishing governance and rule of law, and reconstruction and development activities.
I think it's important to emphasize this team concept. The intelligence community, the law enforcement community, the private sector, academia.
Combined arms maneuver is really Army forces as part of a joint interdepartmental multinational team. So we want to determine how our Army operates based on where we see trends headed with potential enemies. Mission Command is the execution of decentralized operations. Operating decentralized empowers small units and leaders to take the initiative.
You got to be timely with your decisions. Commanders and senior NCOs have a lot of important decisions to make, and they got to make them fast.
So Mission Command represents a return to the commander as a central part of the operation.
We've placed more capability, more responsibility, and more authority in the hands of increasingly junior leaders.
It requires an environment of trust. It requires a common understanding of what you're trying to achieve. It calls for teams at lower levels, analysis at lower levels, a pairing of analysts with interrogators, with human intelligence collectors, and with combat forces.
Some of the most current and accurate information actually comes from the bottom up.
Intelligence and operations are integrally related, and the key intelligence officer in any organization is really the commander who's driving those priorities.
Much of the information in combat, right, is bad, contradictory, incomplete. So the key thing is to be able to analyze that information and provide an intelligence product that imparts understanding for that particular unit.
To leverage all of the assets available to us, not only intelligence, but also surveillance, fires, and transport. All of those things are going to be necessary enablers. And so the building of a closer-knit, combined arms, air-ground team, so to speak, is what the concept is after.
War is inherently nonlinear. Offensive, defensive, stability operations, continuous transitions between those types of operations.
Transitions can be some of the most vulnerable times in the conduct of operations. Transferring authority to host nation forces, multinational forces, civil authorities, and so forth.
Now what we're saying in the operating concept is we have to develop those broad range of skills that allow our leaders and our units to transition continuously.
So this concept now begins to allow us to consider the leader attributes that reside in our Army leader development strategy. Adaptability, for example, may be an attribute for this operating environment and this operating concept that we value more.
You want to keep teams together as much as you can. It's difficult to quantify, but we know that kind of cohesion and common understanding is really a first-order requirement for combat effectiveness.
We would expect this conceptual work to inform the way we train. So I'd expect that training exercises would have a component of uncertainty and surprise.
There's more of an emphasis really on how forces conduct operations, intelligence, movement and maneuver, sustainment, fires, protection, mission command.
We have to continue to adapt, and this is the way we're trying to encourage and drive institutional adaptation.
As we have identified the first-order capabilities that our Army needs to develop to ensure current and future force combat effectiveness and to maintain the high standards of professionalism and discipline that our Army is known for.